Hey soccer fans, welcome back to the Feed the Fire podcast. I'm your host Nick, and we are talking all things Chicago Fire and Major League Soccer. Wishing everyone a happy new year. I hope 2024 is off to a great start for you. I just got back from a week-long vacation, and I am ready to talk about Chicago Fire transfers. They've made some signings. How exciting! Or is it? We're going to get into the types of players that they signed, who they signed, what some of the speculation is, and whether or not it's going to actually move the needle and get the Fire any closer to the playoff picture. And in the spirit of transfers, I thought we'd go over Matt Doyle of MLSsoccer.com, his depth chart on where the Chicago Fire currently stand. We're going to look at some other transfers from around the league, go over the USMNT's January camp roster, and hopefully have a little fun on the way. Stay tuned. Hey soccer fans, welcome back once again to the Feed the Fire podcast. I'm your host Nick, and I appreciate you joining me as we continue our off-season look at the Chicago Fire and the league and all the moves that are going on. Seeing the transfer news over the last day or two has been awesome. It's been great timing for me because I was on vacation all last week and was not glued to my phone at all, except when I was at Galaxy's Edge down at Disney Hollywood Studios and trying to hack into the data pads and collect all the cargo and scan the cargo and find out what's there, and running around the place with my kids trying to meet the characters and get on the Millennium Falcon and play all those games. It was a blast. My kids had so much fun on vacation. I probably messed my knee up trying to play basketball down there with my son. But you know what? He's happy. The kids were all happy. It was a magical vacation for them down at the Magic Kingdom in Hollywood Studios, and we got to soak up some sun in Orlando before the snowstorm hits us here in Chicago. I just took the week off and didn't even think anything Major League Soccer or work or anything else. So now we are back into it for sure, especially with all this latest Chicago Fire news. Before we get into that, I just want to recognize a few people quickly who've subscribed to the channel, who've commented online, who've engaged me through social media, email. So big thanks to Lucas Gravely, Brian Myers, Star Elite, Scott Berdeen, Connor No Soccer, and Bolt Lightning 45, just to name a few people who've reached out and sent messages and comments. Especially in our last episode where we broke down the Chicago Fire's 2024 schedule, as well as learned some management tips from BJ Callahan, something I learned from a webinar that he was the featured guest on. So if you want to go back and take a listen to all of that and maybe get a little insight into the USMNT's assistant coach, go ahead and listen. Now, why are we all here? The Chicago Fire, Major League Soccer. The Fire have finally made a few signings. The fans have been yearning for the front office to do something a little bit more than Tom Barlow, something a little bit more than Andrew Gutman. And they've made some moves. Now, nothing has officially been reported. In fact, let me go on a quick rant here. Did everyone who work on the Chicago Fire's website just all go on vacation at once? Because, here, I'm going to pull it up right now. The Chicago Fire website's articles, like their featured news articles, are the preseason schedule, how to buy tickets, the 2024 regular season schedule, and getting to know their super draft pick. Like, this news are weeks old here. You know, then it's the Barlow signing and the new chief marketing officer, Andrew Gutman. Like, this news is from weeks ago. It's from last year, if I can even say that, right? Even though we're only 8 days into the new year at time of recording. There's got to be more. There's got to be something coming out daily. The Fire need to be doing more. The Fire need to be addressing these rumors and speculations and putting stuff out there and doing more just to keep the fans engaged, I think. But that's just me, right? I'm not running a Major League Soccer franchise. I'm just running this show, which I hope you're finding entertaining, and I hope you're realizing that there's more fan-created content out there than what the actual club is doing. But I digress. Let's get back to these signings that have been reported, that are almost there, that'll hopefully be officially announced by the Chicago Fire sometime soon. We know they like to be cute with their announcement dates. We saw that when they extended Heitz and Pelser and gave Klopas back the head coaching job, that they did it on days where they thought the news cycle would quickly bury it, because the fans, of course, didn't like it. Neither did I. But I've gone on my rants. Let's look at these specific players here. So per Men in Red's Alex Calabrese, the Fire are closing in on signing Lugano's Allan Arigoni. He's a 25-year-old right back, and he's going to come over initially in a loan, similar to how the Marin Haile Selassie deal went down. Now, the speculation surrounding this reported signing is that it's the end of Arnaud Souquet, unless Arigoni ends up playing left back, which I didn't see anything that suggests that he would. My initial impression on this was not a good one. Nothing surprising. And this is nothing against Arigoni. I mean, he may be a very solid signing, and he's played well for the Fire's sister club, FC Lugano. But he's coming over, again, likely at the expense of Arnaud Souquet. So this signing screamed to me one that was made for financial reasons. It's a safe financial signing. They're not going out and splashing a lot of cash to try and find this big name defender, which I'm okay with, because typically in MLS, you spend money on goals, you spend money on offense, you spend money on the big international DP signings, the strikers, the attacking midfielders, the flashy wingers, speedy wingers, right? You're not buying defense, typically. So I'm okay that they're trying to make a move here at right back along the back line and do it in a financially responsible way. But again, these are not the signings that get you excited for what the team's going to do. And as I said in the preview, this is not the kind of signing, in my opinion, that is going to move the needle for the Chicago Fire closer to trophy contention, let alone playoff contention here, right? So that's kind of my take on it. Arigoni's probably going to be a good MLS player. I don't think he's going to blow anyone away. I don't think he's going to be some sort of revelation or all of a sudden have this amazing year coming over to MLS. And remember, we often see a lot of players who come to MLS from Europe really having a hard time adjusting to the length of the season, the travel, living in whatever respective city they're in. Hopefully it's not too hard for him living in Chicago, a very cosmopolitan city where he's got a good support network of teammates and an organization here who's brought over players like this in the past. But there is that adjustment period. And does head coach Frank Klopas want him to be a starter right away, day one, match one? Is he going to use him? Is he going to feature him? Or is he going to stick with Jonathan Dean until he can bring Arigoni along a little bit? Now, we've seen what Jonathan Dean can do. Again, a very solid signing, a very financially favorable signing for the Chicago Fire, given his play and performance over the last season. So it remains to be seen how Arigoni is going to fit into Frank Klopas's plans and tactics and things. Speaking of that, there's a new center back signing that people are thinking maybe Klopas wants to change his tactics and go to a 3 center back backline, play a 3-man backline. And that center back signing is Tobias Salquist from Danish club Silkeborg IF. Now, according to the reports out there, Salquist was apparently a long-term target for the Fire. And again, reportedly, he'll be adding a starting quality option at center back. He's got around 160 appearances with his former club. He spent his entire career, I believe, in the Danish Super League as a solid player over there. He's 28 years old. What do I remember reading? 6'3", 172 pounds, something like that. So that's his kind of stat line there. But from what I read on the website fbref.com, where they do a lot of statistical comparisons and things, he didn't, maybe I missed something, but he didn't even look to be the best defender on his team. He was maybe the 3rd or 4th best defensive player on the team, statistically at least. Again, the website doesn't give you the eye test. It doesn't give you the full picture of how he plays and affects games and things of that nature. Is he a good teammate, good locker room presence? Is he a good kind of on-the-field coach, getting guys in the right places, etc.? But statistically, there were other better defenders and better defensive midfielders on that team. And Silkeborg has finished 6th or 7th in the Danish Super League over the last few seasons. However, they did qualify for the playoffs and then ended up through the playoffs finishing 3rd overall, qualifying for the Europa League. So he's got some continental experience as well, which is great for a Chicago Fire team that really doesn't have a lot of that. And if they are pushing for the playoffs, they're going to need someone who has playoff experience, knockout soccer experience. So he could bring some of those intangibles there. But I really think this signing, again, underwhelming to me. Very safe kind of a signing. And it's almost the Fire front office trying to be a little cute and find a bargain player that really isn't going to elevate the performance of the backline. What this signals, though, number one, maybe Frank Klopas wants to go to a 3 in the back. We saw him use it a handful of times last season as the interim coach. We saw Ezra Henriksen try it a couple times when he was the head coach in the first half of last season. And every time either coach tried it, we saw it fall flat on its face. In fact, going 3 in the back against Nashville, resulting in a 3-0 loss, was the game that ultimately got Henriksen fired, and similar performances ensued with Klopas. In fact, I forget what team he played against where he did go to a 3 in the back. The Fire got just shellacked, and it had me calling for them to fire him as the interim coach. He did the exact same blunder that got the original head coach fired. I thought for sure they'd can him, or at least not bring him back for tactical blunders like that. So it's possible that he wants to go to a 3-back system, and now they'll have Turan and Chihos and Salquist as your 3 center backs. However, the other alternative is Turan is going to end up making a move, whether it's to Europe or a larger club, and the Fire can reel in a transfer fee from it. Turan has not been shy, or at least his agent has not been shy in saying that he is looking for a big move to a bigger league, bigger paycheck, and they think that now is the right time for him to do it. Honestly, if I was Turan, I'd wait till the summer, put in a good, solid start to the Major League Soccer season, work on a little bit of the intangibles as far as like temperament, teamwork, communication, stuff like that. We've seen him kind of fly off the handle at times. We've seen him not communicate very well with his backline partners at times. And then also work on some of those long ball passes that center backs are required to make in today's game. However, if some team comes in with the $5, $7, $9 million offer, it'll be awfully hard for the Chicago Fire to refuse it. So at least the Fire are addressing some depth along the back line. Additionally, center back captain Rafael Chihos not getting any younger. He missed some time last season for injuries and knocks, and probably could have used another game or two off for some load management. There were times he was struggling, so this will be good for him to have someone who can step in. Again, is this going to be a good translation coming over from Denmark to Major League Soccer? We'll see. We will see. I'm not excited about it. A lot of people are high on this. I think it's just because we want something to look forward to. Now, the last bit of transfer news is complete rumor and conjecture for me at this point. I saw a tweet from Manuel Veth, who's like a regional manager at Transfer Market, transfermarket.com, the transfer and statistics site that usually has the best kind of financial numbers and things. But here's the funny thing, I had actually him muted for some reason, and I have to assume that it was because he had put out all these random speculations and just said things like, per sources, this team's gonna sign this player, per sources, this player is demanding a trade, and none of it ever actually happened. So it looked like just a lot of clickbait and someone trying to inflate their profile. But it got retweeted by a follower of the Fire, and I was like, okay, fine. So this guy's trying to link the Fire with somebody else. Well, then I get a call from our featured guest here on the show, John Donovan, who says, hey, I know this Polish guy who's really plugged into Chicago soccer, and he's telling me the Chicago Fire are going to be signing a Polish striker. And I was like, that's funny, John, because this this odd transfer market manager account said the same thing. So it's this conjecture's coming together here, right? So who is this player? He's a 21-year-old Polish player. His name is David Poreba. He is under contract with the Polish side Stal Mielec, which I know nothing about, but last season was with Crown Legacy FC, Charlotte FC's MLS Next Pro team, and supposedly will be playing for CF2, the Chicago Fire's MLS Next Pro team. So is it the same guy that John Donovan's contact and this vague transfer market manager account are talking about? Possibly. I mean, the timing, at least for me, is there. And should we really be getting excited about the Chicago Fire signing a 21-year-old second-team striker? I'm not. I know nothing about this guy. And if Charlotte didn't want to keep him and bring him up, I don't know. And also, I just get the sense that the Chicago Fire front office, again, they're trying to get cute and find these diamonds in the rough of these Eastern European or Northern European leagues, and I just don't know if it's going to pass out. They keep passing on current Chicago Fire Academy products, right? We saw Alex Moniz. He just got a new contract with New England's second team, so they obviously see something in the young man. But I don't know if this is, again, anything that we should be spending any more time on. So I'll just leave it at that, and we'll see how the news breaks over the next few weeks. Now, at this point, I want to recognize the sponsor of our show, Skira Icelandic Spring Water, who has supported Feed the Fire and supported me since we started this podcast almost a year ago. February will mark a year. So thank you to Skira. And Skira water comes from a spring in a government-protected nature preserve in Iceland with naturally low mineral content. This isn't your average water. Clearly, pun intended, it's one of the best. And Skira is available at your local 7-Eleven, so make sure you go out and grab a handful of bottles. Brace yourself for the blizzard that's coming Midwest, that's coming Chicago, and have your Skira bottled water ready for when you have to hole up. All right, now for the second half of the show, like I said, we're talking Fire transfers, and MLS's own Matt Doyle put out his kind of depth chart and what he's looking at with the Chicago Fire. So let's go over what he wrote about them. Now, he put this out before the two transfers that we talked about earlier were reported, before we talked about Arigoni coming in and Salquist coming in. So let's see what Matt Doyle has to say as of January 7th. It's been a much more muted winter than we've gotten used to under owner Joe Mansueto. No big sales and thus far no huge acquisitions. And so the headline news is they've once again decided to stay the course by keeping sporting director George Heitz in charge and leaving head coach Frank Klopas at the wheel. So in that initial opening paragraph, yeah, Matt Doyle is kind of echoing everything that we as fans are feeling. Haven't done much. They're just going to run it back another year. Don't get your hopes up. Okay, Doyle continues. Two acquisitions of note so far are local as they finally brought home left back Andrew Gutman. Remember, they could have signed him as a homegrown half a decade ago, and traded their own left back Miguel Navarro to the Rapids for the veteran. And then they took Notre Dame goalkeeper Brian Dowd, another local kid who'd spent time in the Fire Academy, number 6 overall in the Super Draft. By the way, sidebar here, speaking of locals, Jordy Mihailovic is signing with the Colorado Rapids, so swing and a miss there, Chicago Fire. Doyle's article finishes. They also acquired veteran forward Tom Barlow from the Red Bulls for up to $400,000 in GAM. Taking Dowd gives them insurance for if/when they sell Chris Brady. Have to think that was part of the decision-making process with that pick. Chicago are desperately trying to unload Jairo Torres, who has been one of the biggest busts in league history. No arguments from me there, Doyle. That would give them two open DP slots to play around with for the rest of the window. Jared Shaqiri is still in town and unlikely to go anywhere, I'm told. I'd expect one of those open DP slots to be a number 9, and the other to be a winger with homegrown Brian Gutierrez earning the number 10 role. That said, Gutierrez can also play on the wing, so getting a DP number 10 and pushing Gutierrez out to the left also makes sense to me. So I gotta disagree with Doyle a little bit here. We've seen Gutierrez play on the wing, and we've seen him play centrally. We've seen him play with and without Shaqiri. We've seen him play with different strikers, and across all of it, Gutierrez is most effective at the number 10 in the central midfield spot. So, okay, I get maybe that's the argument where you didn't want to bring in Jordi Mihailovic, but if they... What is he saying here? I wouldn't push him on the wing. Gutierrez needs to be your starting 10, and he needs to continue to be given the confidence to make the right decisions, told what the right decisions are. He's got to grow as an attacking player. We've said it all last season. Gutierrez needs more confidence, more minutes, and more shooting practice, frankly. And he needs to be able to kind of take control of that team. Now, I really think Frank's going to lose him. I don't know if Gutierrez is ever going to reach his full potential under Frank Klopas. We know Klopas has a reputation of losing locker rooms. We know Klopas has a reputation for tinkering with some tactics and things. I hope Gutierrez can flourish and develop as he needs to. Okay, final note from Matt Doyle here. Everyone I speak to around the league thinks the Fire are favorites to land Kellyn Acosta in free agency. That'd make a lot of sense for both player and club. Now, that is interesting, fans. That is interesting. Kellyn Acosta, USMNT veteran, MLS veteran, trophy-winning player at all levels in American soccer, coming to the Chicago Fire to help shore up the defensive midfield. If that's the case, come on down, Kellyn. I mean, if it moves the Chicago Fire on from Gaston Jimenez and Federico Navarro, bring him on down. I'm not a huge fan of Kellyn Acosta at this part of his career, because I really think the Fire need to be really building something. But he could be an excellent kind of stopgap as the Fire build out kind of their outside backs and rebuild their attack. So, plus, his gamesmanship, he's one of those guys where you're happy he's on your team and you'd hate for him to be on the other team. I might get a little annoyed with him, but you know what? If it gets the Fire points, I'm willing to look past that. So, all that being said, here is Doyle's depth chart. Goalkeeper, Brady, Richie, and Gall. Of course, there's no surprises there, and then we'll work Bryant out into that as the season goes on. Center backs, he has Chihos and Turan as the starters, Wyatt Olmsberg and Mauricio Pineda as their backups, and of course now we've got Salquist in that mix. Left back, Andrew Gutman and Brian Reynolds. Right back, Arnaud Souquet and Jonathan Dean. So I disagree. I think Dean should be starting over Souquet. I had a great conversation with John Donovan earlier today, like I said, and he even said Souquet has lost the step, he has lost the speed, and it is noticeable and sad when you see a pro soccer player lose that. And that's why I think Dean should be starting, and likely Souquet moves out in favor of Arigoni. Looking at the defensive midfield positions here, Doyle has penciled in Kellyn Acosta with a question mark, right? Penciled him in as the starting number 8, and Federico Navarro as the starting number 6. You know, Navarro hasn't developed the way I wanted to. He's been injured, and he has been shown not to make good decisions, both on the ball and playing, as well as kind of temperamental stuff, right? He's good for... He and the other Navarro, who's thankfully gone to Colorado now, are good for a yellow card game between the two of them. So I would actually like to see Mauricio Pineda play a little bit more as the starting central defensive midfielder there. And if he's next to Kellyn Acosta, it's going to be even better for him, I think, to learn and grow. Backups, Gaston Jimenez and Javi Casas. Hopefully we can move on from Jimenez if Acosta comes in. Now at the number 10, Matt Doyle has Gutierrez as your starting 10, Shaqiri as your backup, and Sergio Orahel of CF2 as your number 3. Left wing, Jairo Torres / DP question mark. Interesting. If they can dump Torres, then they can go out and sign a DP. I think you start you start Mueller there to begin the season if you don't go out and sign that big DP, and then you have Haile Selassie as kind of a third option. On the right wing, you start Shaqiri, and then you have Haile Selassie and Fabian Herbers as your backups. And as we know, Fabian Herbers can get plugged in pretty much anywhere in the midfield and can do a serviceable job. And we have said it all last season about Fabian Herbers that when the Fire are making the playoffs and competing for trophies, Herbers isn't starting. He isn't playing a critical role on this team. And he is that second or third option who's able to provide depth, come off the bench, spot start in, say, domestic cup competitions, League Cup, stuff like that, to kind of rotate around some of your starters and get them a break. So if this is, in fact, the case, that would be fantastic to see, say, Haile Selassie, Mueller, Shaqiri, or another DP as your starting wingers, and then have Herbers and Mueller, Haile Selassie kind of, rotating around for that second string. The striker position here, the number 9, Doyle has DP number 9 as the Chicago Fire's number 1 option. To be determined, I suppose. So I'm hoping that's not like a Freudian... I'm hoping that is like a Freudian slip of his, where he put that as their starter, that he's hearing things, but it's all rumor and he can't report on it, especially since he has Kellen Acosta and Jairo Torres as a question mark. He also has Kasper Shabilko as a question mark on here, but not this DP number 9 as a question mark. So that would be great to have someone step in there. He has Koutsias at the second spot, Barlow in the third spot, Shabilko in the fourth spot with that question mark. Who knows if they'll end up buying him out or trying to transfer him or move him or do something with him. And then he's got Victor Becerra as the number 5 striker on his Chicago Fire depth chart. Great to see Becerra there. I think he deserves a lot more minutes at the first team level, to see if what he's done at CF2 can translate to the first team level. He did it very well in college. Did it very well at CF2. Would love to see him get, like I said, first team minutes. However, if that rumor of them bringing in the Polish 21-year-old striker is true, I don't think Victor Becerra has much of a future with the Chicago Fire, if that's the case. All right, that is the Chicago Fire transfers, depth charts. Let's take a wider look now at Major League Soccer and all the action that has been going on around the league. So looking at MLSsoccer.com's transfer tracker, the Rapids have transferred Max Alves to Cuiabá. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He is a midfielder. He got transferred over to the Brazilian top flight side. Just did not pan out. Did not have the offensive production that you would want in a U22 initiative player, and so they moved on from him. Here's the big one. Ozzy Alonso, as the headline puts it, legendary MLS midfielder Ozzy Alonso announces his retirement. The 38-year-old spent his last 2 seasons at Atlanta United after originally making his name as a Sounders stalwart from 2009 to 2018, and then spending 2019 to 21 with Minnesota United FC. So congratulations on a brilliant, just amazing career. Wherever he went, he was effective and influential on the pitch, and the club was always in their game. So congrats to Ozzy Alonso. Much success to him in the future. I hope he sticks around MLS in some capacity or other. Colorado Rapids signed Jordi Mihailovic from AZ Alkmaar. As we had mentioned earlier, the Rapids paid a club record transfer fee north of $3 million. So that tells you 2 things. The Rapids were willing to make their biggest move ever to bring him over, but it also tells you that the Rapids' biggest move ever is just north of $3 million. So not a lot of financial movement on that side, not a lot of financial ambition from the Rapids, and ask any fan what their opinion is of the ownership group, and I think that's one of the first things they'll tell you. Here's what's interesting. Colorado have sent $75,000 in general allocation money to FC Cincinnati for his discovery priority. So Cincinnati had Mihailovic on their discovery rights list. The Chicago Fire didn't. Interesting to note. Okay, good luck to Jordy over in Colorado. I don't think the Fire are playing Colorado this year. Otherwise, that would be one heck of a revenge game. I wonder if they could make that happen. Maybe there's some, like, crazy, ridiculous scheduling thing that could go on, and the league could just say, you know what, just for funsies, let's have the Chicago Fire play the Colorado Rapids and just let Miguel Navarro just destroy everybody and Jordi Mihailovic score goals all over the place. Yeah, I'm looking back at the schedule here. Doesn't look like the Fire are playing the Rapids. And I'm just looking at the logo, so I could totally miss it. But, nope. Unfortunate. Not even in the preseason. Moving on, St. Louis City has signed Danish left back Nicholas Dyer. So they are trying to, he comes from FC Midtjylland, so they're also trying to kind of plunder some of the northern European countries there. 22-year-old former Danish youth international, under contract through 2026 with an option for 2027. So he's probably going to slide right in to a starting role, or at least, you know, get a number of minutes early with St. Louis City. Inter Miami have made a move. Outgoing, though, this time, they have transferred LGP, Leandro Gonzalez Perez, to River Plate on a permanent move. He's 31 years old. He was on loan to River Plate, and now the deal is done for a permanent loan. Happy trails, LGP. New England signs goalkeeper Henrik Ravas, so they are trying to kind of get someone to fill in for Jordi Petrovic. Where is he coming from? Coming from the Polish top flight side. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. He's coming over from Poland under contract through 2026 with another option. He previously played for Derby County over in England and is Slovakia's third string goalkeeper as well. So he's gotten some international minutes. Should be a good addition to the Revs, that's for sure. Last couple of transfers of note. San Jose re-signed Tommy Thompson. Portland signed goalkeepers Trey Muse and James Pandemis. Great, I get to keep making Greek goalkeeper references. Galaxy have signed goalkeeper John McCarthy. They've also signed Japanese defender Miki Yamane. And apologies if I'm butchering pronunciations. Bigger named signings. Orlando City signs Nico Lodero. Kamal Miller goes from Inter Miami to the Timbers in a trade. And the Rapids sign USMNT goalkeeper Zach Steffen. Not done yet. Orlando City acquire Ivan Angulo from Palmeiras. FC Cincinnati signed USMNT center back Miles Robinson. That's a big one. Robinson goes to FC Cincinnati. New England signs Jonathan Mensah. So a lot of big MLS names are making moves, trying to either make way for new players coming in, rebuilding, reloading, retooling, or trying to go get a payday at another club. And looking specifically at Miles Robinson, he's under contract through 2024 and has an option for 2025. So the speculation there is it's a short-term deal if there's some interest from a big club overseas and they're willing to pay a good transfer fee to FC Cincinnati. Then Miles Robinson could fulfill his goal of playing in a major league, big league overseas, and FC Cincinnati could be well compensated. Gosh, what could Robinson's career have been but for that torn Achilles prior to the World Cup? That would have been amazing. All right, I think we hit all of it as far as the transfer tracker goes, and I am going to save the January USMNT call-up list for another episode, as we don't want to run this one too long and just bore you. I've talked enough, and I'm exhausted after a flight back from Orlando and a week of chasing children around Disney properties. We also went to the Citrus Bowl to see my wife's alma mater, Iowa, get blown out by Tennessee there. But hey, I got a lot of free Cheez-Its down there. That was a good time as well. So with that, Fire fans, Major League Soccer fans, I hope you've enjoyed the show. Please reach out to me on Twitter at GlassHouseSoccer. No second E. Thank you, Twitter character limits. Or you can email me, glasshouseSoccer@gmail.com. Go check things out on YouTube. We got a few Chicago Fire highlight videos from last season that are up. I'll be working on a few more this week. Join the conversation. Share the link to the show. If you got any friends who love soccer, who like the Chicago Fire, who want to know more, learn more, or again, just join the conversation with us, please share the link, share the show, follow along on Spotify, rate, do all that good stuff. You know what to do to build up some online social media equity. So with that, everyone, enjoy the rest of your week, and let's go Fire.